Soon after the Chinese regime implemented its national security law in Hong Kong, it opened a national security office in the city. The office has sweeping power with immunity from local jurisdiction. Article 43 of the new law gives the police unprecedented power to carry out the so-called national security activities. Experts believe that the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, is imposing its authoritarian model in Hong Kong to preserve its one-party rule and stability. On July 8th, at the inauguration of the National Security Office, which is called the Office for Safeguarding National Security of the Central People's Government in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, CPGNSO, Hong Kong police were on high alert and set up huge barricades to block off the area. Most reporters were restricted from entering the press area and were unable to conduct interviews. During the press conference, the director of the Liaison Office of the Central People's Government in Hong Kong and the National Security Advisor to the Committee for Safeguarding National Security, Luo Huining, the director of the CPGNSO, Zheng Yanshong, and the chief executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, all delivered their speeches. Luo said the security office is the gatekeeper of national security in Hong Kong. The office will set up a committee to oversee the Hong Kong government's enforcement of the national security law that Beijing imposed on the city on July 1st. The committee reports directly to Beijing. The head of the CPGNSO is Zheng Yanshong and is also known for his role in suppressing villagers during an uprising over an illegal land grab in Wukan, a village in Guangdong province. Zheng was the Communist Party secretary of Shanwei City at the time. The Wukan protests began in September 2011 when the villagers were deceived by the local government to hand over their lands. The lands were sold by the local officials, and the head of the village committee was arrested and wrongfully charged. Lijiangzhou, the deputy director of the CPGNSO, was the minister of the Police Liaison Division of the Liaison Office of the CPG in Hong Kong. He received training from the investigation department at the People's Public Security University of China and was the former director of the Internal Security Bureau of the Ministry of Public Security. Shang Xue, a Canadian-Chinese journalist, indicated that the CCP's implementation of the national security law in Hong Kong threatens the rule of law.
The measures used to suppress the people in the mainland are what they are trying to implement in Hong Kong. Although Hong Kong is not a completely free democratic society, certain basic human rights and independent judiciary are present in Hong Kong. The independent judiciary was put to an end when the CCP announced the national security law.
Article 43 of the National Security Law grants Hong Kong police 7 unprecedented special powers to carry out security measures. Some of these special powers include 1. Search private properties without a warrant. 2. Require internet service providers to provide user data and to remove messages from their platforms that are deemed offensive or endanger the law. 3. Freeze assets and confiscate properties of those accused of violating or endangering the law. 4. Requiring foreign and Taiwan political organizations and agents to provide information on activities concerning Hong Kong.
These terms and conditions of the national security law are no different from the policies of stability of political power in mainland China. The terms and conditions were copied from China and were slightly adjusted and changed in a few areas. Even some of the terms in the national security law are more harsh than the ones in China.
During a press conference, Carrie Lam tried to reassure the people of Hong Kong by stating that the security law safeguards human rights and there's no need to worry as long as they don't break the law.
Carrie Lam's rhetoric can be described as a deception, an outright deception. The ultimate power of interpretation of all these provisions is in the hands of the CCP. It is in the hands of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, China's rubber-stamped legislature.
Carrie Lam's statement is shameful. She knows very well that the passing of the national security law means that Hong Kong is completely under the control of the CCP. All levels of judiciary, the supreme authority, and the so-called law are drafted, implemented, supervised, and approved by the CCP. Everything is controlled by this authoritarian regime. So what is breaking the law? The CCP will decide what it means.
The National Security Advisory Council advises on matters of Hong Kong's national security and attends meetings of the Committee for Safeguarding National Security Law in Hong Kong. Carrie Lam is the chairperson of the meetings, but she still has to report to and seek advice from the advisor, Luo Huining. A netizen said that there are only 7.5 million residents in Hong Kong. So why is it that as soon as security law is introduced, all those who can walk or climb want to move out and run away? Another netizen said that Hong Kong will not be the same if all of its people left the city, leaving behind corruption, abuse of power, and illegal laws.
These terms and conditions are, in fact, ideological controls. As long as you think differently than the CCP and protest on the street, holding a piece of blank paper, you would be considered breaking the law. As Hong Kong people, all basic human rights like personal safety and personal property are stripped away. There is no protection at all. How can they, Hong Kongers, not be worried?
Commentators believe that the CCP maintains its political power by instigating fear among the people.